The officer's eyes went wide as he stared at the wedding dress hanging in the closet. Detective Martinez turned to me, then to the woman trembling in the doorway of her luxury condo, then back to the dress, my dress, the one I'd worn exactly 14 months ago when I married the man who was now standing behind her with his hand protectively on her shoulder. "Mrs. Ashford," the detective said slowly, pulling out his notepad, "you're saying this is your wedding dress? The one that went missing from your home 2 weeks ago?" I nodded, keeping my face perfectly neutral even as my heart hammered against my ribs. "That's correct, officer. Custom Vera Wang. Cost $18,000. I reported it stolen from my bedroom closet on the 15th. The woman, Natasha, my husband's so-called business associate, let out a nervous laugh. "This is insane, Marcus. Tell them you bought this for me." She stopped, her face draining of color as she realized what she'd almost said. "Marcus, my husband of 14 months. The man who'd held my hand at the altar and promised forever. The man whose credit card statements I'd been tracking for 6 weeks. The man who didn't know that I'd found not just his affair, but the entire conspiracy he built around stealing everything my father left me." "Ma'am," Detective Martinez continued, addressing Natasha, "do you have a receipt for this dress?" Marcus finally spoke, his voice tight. "Officer, this is obviously a misunderstanding. My wife is going through a difficult time. She's been unstable lately." I smiled then, a cold smile that made Marcus's confident expression falter. Because he didn't know that I'd sewn a tracking device into the hem of that dress 6 months ago when I first suspected something was wrong. He didn't know that I had his confession recorded. He didn't know that the police weren't really here about a stolen dress. They were here because I'd also reported the $200,000 missing from my inheritance account. And the wedding dress. That was just the beautiful, poetic way to get them through the door. "Actually, officer," I said, pulling out my phone, "I have something else you might want to see. Let me tell you how a wedding dress led to the complete destruction of a husband who thought he'd married a fool. 14 months earlier, I'd been Harper Ashford, formerly Harper Sinclair, standing in that exact Vera Wang dress, believing I'd found my soulmate. Marcus Ashford was everything I thought I wanted. Charming, successful, attentive in ways that made me feel cherished. He was a real estate developer with a portfolio that impressed everyone at the country club. Or so he said. The truth was simpler and more calculated. Marcus was a con man who'd spent 6 months researching me before our chance meeting at a charity gala. He knew my father had died 18 months prior, leaving me a fortune in cash, property, and a controlling stake in Sinclair Properties. He knew I was lonely, grieving, vulnerable. He knew exactly how to play me. Our courtship was a masterclass in manipulation. He listened to my stories about Dad with perfect compassion. He never pushed for physical intimacy, playing the gentleman. He introduced me to Natasha Volkov, his business partner, a striking woman with ice blue eyes who smiled warmly and told me how lucky Marcus was to have found someone real after so many shallow women. I should have known. The signs were there. But grief makes you stupid, and loneliness makes you blind. The wedding was small, tasteful, exactly what I wanted. Marcus insisted on a prenup to protect both of us, he said with that earnest smile. I was so touched by his thoughtfulness that I didn't read it carefully enough. My lawyer did, though. He called me 3 times to point out the clauses that essentially gave Marcus nothing in a divorce. That's fine, I told him, stupidly confident. We're not getting divorced. Marcus signed it without flinching. Why would he? He never planned to divorce me. He planned something far more permanent. The first few months were bliss, or what I mistook for bliss. Marcus was attentive, sweet, constantly suggesting improvements to our life, moving my inheritance into a joint account for easier management, adding his name to the deed of my father's penthouse as a gesture of trust, introducing me to his financial advisor who recommended aggressive investments that required my signature. I signed everything, every single document, because I loved him, because I trusted him, because I was an idiot. The red flags started subtle. Business trips that lasted longer than expected. Late-night phone calls he'd taken in another room. Receipts for restaurants I'd never been to. When I asked, he had perfect explanations. The trips were for deals that would set us up for life. The calls were with overseas clients. The restaurants were business dinners. "You're welcome to come along," he'd say with that wounded look. "But I thought you hated those boring meetings." I did hate them. So I stayed home, worked on my charity projects, had lunch with friends, played the perfect wife. And while I did, Marcus systematically positioned himself to take everything. Natasha was always there, hovering on the periphery. She'd stop by the house with documents for Marcus to review. She'd be at the business dinners I occasionally attended, laughing at his jokes, touching his arm in ways that lasted just a second too long. When I mentioned it to Marcus, he laughed. "Tasha, she's like a sister to me. Don't be paranoid, sweetheart." But I noticed things. The way she'd look at him when she thought no one was watching. The designer clothes that seemed too expensive for a junior business partner. The familiarity between them that went beyond professional. 6 months into our marriage, I found the first real evidence, a hotel receipt in his jacket pocket. The Ritz-Carlton, presidential suite. The same night he told me he was staying at his brother's place because a late meeting ran long. I didn't confront him. Something in my gut, maybe my father's business instincts finally kicking in, told me to stay quiet, to watch, to wait. So I started paying attention, really paying attention. That's when I discovered the prenup I'd signed so trustingly had a loophole big enough to drive a truck through. If I died within the first 3 years of marriage, everything went to Marcus. Not my cousins, not my charities, Marcus. And that's when I realized my husband wasn't planning to divorce me. He was planning to kill me. The photo arrived on a Tuesday morning. No message, just an image sent from a block number. Marcus and Natasha at a jewelry store, her hand extended as he slipped a ring onto her finger. Not a business ring, an engagement ring. I was standing in our kitchen, coffee cup frozen halfway to my lips, staring at my phone screen. My wedding ring, a modest but beautiful sapphire and diamond band, suddenly felt like it was burning my finger. I forwarded the photo to myself from 3 different email accounts, then deleted it from my phone. If Marcus checked my messages, and I was starting to realize he might, he wouldn't find it. That afternoon, I made an appointment with my father's lawyer, Richard Chun, using my maiden name and a burner phone I'd bought with cash. I told Marcus I was going to a spa day. Richard's face went pale as he reviewed the documents I'd signed. "Harper, this is bad. This prenup essentially means if something happens to you in the next year and a half, Marcus inherits everything. And these investment documents..." He flipped through the stack I'd photocopied from Marcus's home office. "These are shell companies. Fake businesses. He's been moving your money out of legitimate accounts into these, probably preparing to drain them. How much has he taken?" Richard's fingers flew over his calculator. "Conservatively, about 200,000 so far. But Harper," he looked at me with genuine fear in his eyes. "The life insurance policies you signed 3 months ago. Do you remember those?" I did. Marcus had suggested them over dinner, framing it as protecting each other. 2 policies, $2 million each. I'd signed without reading the fine print. "The beneficiary on your policy is Marcus. But Harper, look at the death benefit triggers. Accidental death pays double. And there's a clause here about spousal inheritance in cases of tragic accidents that supersedes the prenup." My blood ran cold. He's going to kill me and make it look like an accident. Richard didn't disagree. He leaned forward, voice dropping to a whisper. "We need to be very careful. If Marcus even suspects you know, he might accelerate his timeline. We need evidence. Real evidence. The kind that puts him in prison." "I have a plan," I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded. "But I need your help, and I need you to trust me completely. Before I continue, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I love hearing from you. And if this story resonates with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it." Over the next 3 weeks, I became someone I didn't recognize. During the day, I played the dutiful, oblivious wife. I smiled at Marcus over breakfast. I asked about his business. I let him think I was completely in the dark. But at night, when he claimed he was working late, I was working too. I hired a private investigator, a woman Richard recommended, ex-FBI, discreet as a ghost. Her name was Sarah Kim, and she was exactly what I needed, ruthless, thorough, and very, very good at her job. "Your husband is sloppy," she told me after the first week. Arrogant. That's good for us. She showed me photos that made my stomach turn. Marcus and Natasha at restaurants, holding hands. Marcus and Natasha going into her condo building, not emerging until morning. Marcus and Natasha at a beach resort, the same weekend he told me he was at a conference in Chicago. But the worst photos were the ones of them looking at houses, luxury properties, beach mansions. One was circled in red marker with a note. Closed on this one. Cash offer. 2 months ago. He bought a house with my money, I whispered. Technically, your joint money, Sarah corrected. But yes, it's in his name only. $3 million. Oceanfront. 5 bedrooms. I checked the deed. He put it in a trust for him and Natasha. I wanted to vomit. Instead, I took a deep breath and asked the question I'd been dreading. When is he planning to do it? Kill me, I mean. Sarah's expression turned grim. She pulled out another folder. I installed surveillance in your home, cameras hidden in smoke detectors, audio in the vents. You need to hear this. She pressed play on her laptop. Marcus's voice filled the room, talking to someone on the phone. The policy pays double for accidental death. Hiking accident would be clean. She loves those nature trails. Remote. Easy to stage a fall. The voice on the other end was Natasha, cold and practical. What about the wedding dress? You said she's sentimental about it. What about it? I want it. After. When you sell the penthouse, I want the dress. Marcus laughed. Actually laughed. You want my dead wife's wedding dress. It's Vera Wang. $18,000. I checked. And it would be poetic, don't you think? Me wearing it when we get married. The recording continued, but I couldn't hear it any more over the roaring in my ears. She wanted my wedding dress. The dress I'd chosen with my mother's ghost whispering in my mind, the last major purchase I'd made before Dad died. She wanted to wear it to marry my husband after he murdered me. Something inside me snapped. Not into grief or fear. Into cold, crystalline fury. Sarah, I said, my voice so calm it scared even me. I need you to do something for me. Something that might sound crazy. I'm listening. I need you to steal my wedding dress. And I need you to plant it in Natasha's closet. Sarah's eyebrows shot up. You want me to frame her for stealing your dress? No. I smiled, and it felt like baring teeth. I want to report it stolen. I want the police to find it in her possession. And when they do, I want them to find everything else I'm going to plant there too. The next day, while Marcus was at work, and I knew Natasha would be at her weekly Pilates class, Sarah and I executed phase 1. We entered our own penthouse, my penthouse, I reminded myself, and I led her to the bedroom closet where my wedding dress hung in its preservation bag. It really is beautiful, Sarah murmured, touching the lace. It was, I corrected. I felt nothing looking at it now except disgust. Take it. But before she did, I did something that felt both crazy and perfect. I'd spent the previous evening carefully sewing a small GPS tracker into the hem, invisible unless you knew where to look. And I'd sprayed the entire dress with a special forensic marking spray that Richard had acquired, the kind police used to track stolen goods. Under UV light, it would glow like a beacon. Insurance, I explained to Sarah's questioning look. We also took jewelry, pieces Marcus had given me, expensive items I'd documented thoroughly. And one more thing, a small notebook I'd kept hidden, where I'd recorded every conversation with Marcus about his investments, every promise, every lie. I made copies, but I wanted the original gone, wanted him to think I suspected nothing. Sarah planted the dress in Natasha's closet while I waited in the car, heart pounding. But we didn't just plant the dress. We planted something else. Remember those fake financial documents, the shell company papers showing where Marcus had moved my money? I'd made copies, altered slightly to look like Natasha's personal records. Now they sat in her home office, mixed in with her real files. To anyone investigating, it would look like she was the one running the financial fraud. You're playing a dangerous game, Sarah warned as we drove away. If they find out you planted evidence, they won't. Everything I planted is real except the location. That dress is mine. That jewelry is mine. Those financial records are real transactions. I'm just helping the truth along. That afternoon, I filed a police report. My wedding dress, stolen sometime in the last 48 hours. Value, $18,000. Sentimental value, immeasurable. I cried real tears in the police station. The officer was sympathetic, paternal. These things usually turn up, ma'am. Probably a housekeeper or a guest who admired it. We don't have a housekeeper, I said truthfully. And the only person with a key besides my husband and me is, well, his business partner, Natasha Volkov. But I'm sure she wouldn't. I let the implication hang there, planted the seed. The officer made a note. We'll look into it, Mrs. Ashford. Phase 1 complete. Phase 2 was harder. I needed Marcus to believe everything was normal while I dug deeper into his conspiracy. So I played my part. I was loving, supportive, blind. But I was also watching everything. I cloned his phone, something Sarah showed me how to do with a specialized device. Now I could see every call, every text, every email. The things I read made me want to burn the whole world down. Marcus to Natasha, she's been clingy lately. Annoying. Can't wait until this is over. Natasha to Marcus. 2 more months and she'll be gone. Then we're free. Have you thought about how? Marcus to Natasha, hiking accident. Prescott Trail. Remote enough. I'll get her there under the pretense of reconnecting. 1 push, 100-foot drop. I've already done a scouting run. No cameras anywhere. Natasha to Marcus. What about her phone? Location tracking. Marcus to Natasha. I'll make sure she leaves it in the car. Tells me she wants to disconnect and be present. She's big on that mindfulness crap. They were planning my murder like a grocery list. Clinical. Efficient. Cold. But the worst message came a week later, and it wasn't between Marcus and Natasha. Marcus to unknown number. The wife situation will be resolved within 60 days. When can we meet to discuss the property transfer? Unknown to Marcus. As soon as the death certificate is issued. My lawyer will have the papers ready. $3.2 million as agreed. He'd already sold my father's building. Hadn't killed me yet, but had already negotiated the sale of my inheritance. The buyer was waiting for me to die, like I was already a ghost. I forwarded everything to Sarah, to Richard, to a secure cloud drive. I documented it all. Timestamps, screenshots, voice recordings when he took calls on speaker. But I needed more. I needed them on record, planning it. I needed evidence so airtight that no lawyer, no amount of charm, no claim of misunderstanding could save him. That's when I got reckless. That's when I made a decision that could have gotten me killed, but felt necessary. I was going to secretly record them in person. And I knew exactly when and where. Marcus and Natasha had a weekly business meeting every Thursday at 3 p.m. Marcus told me these meetings were at his office downtown. In reality, Sarah's surveillance showed they were at Natasha's luxury condo, the one Marcus was paying for with my money. I want to go inside, I told Sarah. I want to hear everything. Harper, that's breaking and entering. If you get caught, I won't get caught. You'll be my lookout. And I won't just be listening. I showed her the tiny recording devices I'd ordered online, professional grade, voice activated. I'm going to plant these everywhere. In her living room, bedroom, office. I want to know everything they say when they think they're safe. Sarah looked at me for a long moment. You've changed. 2 months ago, you were crying in Richard's office. Now you're planning a covert operation. 2 months ago, I thought my husband loved me. Now I know he's planning to murder me for money. Change was necessary. We entered Natasha's condo the following Tuesday. I'd insisted on joining Sarah, needed to see where my husband spent his afternoons, needed to understand the full scope of their betrayal. The place was gorgeous, floor-to-ceiling windows, marble counters, designer furniture, all purchased with my family's money. In the bedroom, I found photos. Marcus and Natasha on vacation, the same week he told me he was visiting his sick mother. Natasha wearing jewelry I recognized from my own collection. And on the nightstand, a framed photo of the two of them that made my blood freeze. It was a mock-up wedding photo. Professionally done, like an engagement shoot. Natasha was wearing a wedding dress. Not my wedding dress, but a dress nonetheless. Marcus was in a tuxedo, looking at her with genuine joy, the kind of joy I'd thought he reserved for me. The caption at the bottom read, "Finally. Soon. Forever." I took pictures of everything with trembling hands. In the home office, I found the real treasure. Natasha wasn't just Marcus's mistress. She was his partner in every sense. The financial fraud, the shell companies, the money laundering, her fingerprints were all over it. And there was more. Documents showing they'd done this before. Not murder, but financial fraud. There was a newspaper clipping about a wealthy widow in California who'd lost her fortune to a trusted financial advisor. The advisor's photo looked like Marcus with different hair. The associate mentioned in the article? Natasha under a different name. They're professional con artists, I whispered to Sarah. I'm not the first. I'm just the first they've planned to kill. Sarah photographed everything while I planted the recording devices. We worked quickly, efficiently, and when we left 45 minutes later, Natasha's condo was completely wired for sound. The recordings from the next Thursday meeting were gold. Natasha, have you set the date for the hike? Marcus, 3 weeks. I told Harper I want to take her somewhere special for our anniversary. She thinks it's romantic. Natasha, and you're sure about the location? Marcus, I've been there twice now. There's a scenic overlook, no guardrail. Trail is narrow. One push, she tumbles down 100 feet. Rocks at the bottom. Skull fracture, broken neck. Classic hiking accident. Natasha, what if someone sees you? Marcus, won't. I picked a Tuesday. No one hikes that trail midweek. And I'll have her phone in my pocket turned off. When I discover she's missing, I'll be the frantic husband who immediately calls 911. Natasha, you've thought of everything. Marcus, 14 months of marriage, pretending to love that simpering fool. I deserve an Oscar. And I deserve her money. We deserve it. After we're married, we'll disappear for a while. Let things cool down. Then come back with new identities, new story. Grieving widower who found love again. Natasha, and the dress? Did you get it? My stomach dropped. This was it. Marcus. Not yet. It's still in her closet. But I'll get it for you before the accident. You want to wear a dead woman's wedding dress. Natasha, I want to wear an $18,000 Vera Wang. And yes, the symbolism appeals to me. I'm not sentimental, baby. I'm practical. That dress is an asset. Marcus, you're something else, you know that? Natasha, that's why you love me. Now, about the life insurance paperwork. The recording continued for another hour. They discussed how Marcus would act devastated, how long to wait before he and Natasha could be publicly together, how they'd sell all my properties through different real estate companies to avoid suspicion. They discussed me like I was already dead, like I was just an obstacle between them and their fortune. But they made one critical mistake. One beautiful, perfect mistake. Marcus, I've been careful about everything. Used cash for all our meetings. Kept my phone clean. Used burner phones for sensitive calls. There's no way Harper suspects anything. She's too trusting, too naive. Natasha, your prenup was genius. If she'd hired a lawyer to review it properly, she'd have seen the loophole. But you played the role perfectly, the thoughtful husband suggesting protection for both sides. Marcus, rich women are easy targets when they're lonely. I knew the second I met her at that charity gala that she'd be perfect. Grieving daddy's girl, desperate for love, sitting on a fortune. The fact that she was decent looking was a bonus. Made it easier to pretend. I listened to them mock me, mock my grief, mock every moment I believed was real. And I felt nothing but cold certainty. They wanted to play games. I'd show them what a real game looked like. The breaking point came on a Sunday morning, 2 weeks before Marcus's planned anniversary hike. I woke up to find Marcus in the kitchen making breakfast. Pancakes, my favorite. Fresh strawberries. Orange juice in crystal glasses. The perfect husband. What's all this? I asked, forcing warmth into my voice. Just wanted to do something nice for my beautiful wife. He kissed my forehead. I've been working so much lately. Thought we could spend the day together. Just us. I smiled, played along, ignored the way my skin crawled at his touch. We ate breakfast on the balcony, the morning sun making everything look golden and perfect. Marcus talked about our upcoming anniversary trip with such genuine seeming excitement that I almost believed him myself. Almost. I found this trail, he said, pulling out his phone to show me photos. Prescott Trail. Supposed to have the most amazing views. I thought we could hike it Tuesday morning, nice and early, avoid the crowds. The Tuesday 2 weeks away. The day he planned to kill me. That sounds lovely, I said. I even reached across to squeeze his hand. You're so thoughtful. I excused myself to use the bathroom, and that's when I saw it. His phone, left unlocked on the counter. The screen showed a text conversation with Natasha from 10 minutes ago, before he'd come to make breakfast. Natasha, why are you playing house with her? Marcus, appearances. Need her comfortable and unsuspecting. After today, I'll tell her I'm working late all week. By the time Tuesday comes, she'll be grateful I'm taking time for her. Natasha, make sure she doesn't back out of the hike. Marcus, she won't. I'll make it seem romantic. She's pathetically eager for my attention these days. Natasha, 2 more weeks. Then we're free. Marcus, then we're free. I love you. Natasha, bring me that dress tonight. I want to try it on. I took photos of the conversation with my own phone, my hands shaking with rage. Then I heard Marcus's footsteps approaching. I flushed the toilet for cover, washed my hands, and walked out smiling. Everything okay? He asked. Perfect, I lied. That afternoon, while Marcus was supposedly at the gym, I met with Richard and Sarah at a secure location, a friend's apartment Marcus didn't know about. He's going to kill me in 2 weeks, I said without preamble. Tuesday, Prescott Trail. I have it all on recording. Richard looked grave. We could go to the police now. We have enough evidence to get him arrested for conspiracy. No. My voice was steel. Conspiracy charges can be hard to prove. Good lawyers might get him off, claim the recordings were taken out of context, that he was joking. I want him destroyed completely. I want him to lose everything, face every consequence. I want him to know I knew, that I played him the way he played me. Sarah leaned forward. What are you thinking? I reported my wedding dress stolen 3 days ago. The police filed a report but haven't acted on it yet. I want them to act on it now. I want them to find it in Natasha's closet. And when they do, I want them to find everything else, the financial documents, the evidence of fraud. I want them to connect all the dots. And Marcus? Richard asked. Marcus is going to take me on that anniversary hike. He's going to take me to that cliff. He's going to make his move. I saw their faces pale with alarm and held up a hand. I'll be wearing a wire. You'll both be on that trail, hidden but close. The moment he tries to push me, you call in the cavalry. I want him caught in the act. Attempted murder. Conspiracy. Financial fraud. Everything. Harper, that's insanely dangerous, Sarah protested. If something goes wrong, nothing will go wrong. Because you'll be there. Because I'll be prepared. Because I am done being afraid of the man I thought I loved. I looked at both of them. I need you to trust me. Like I'm trusting you to keep me alive. If this story is making your blood boil like mine was, make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell so you don't miss what happens next. Trust me, the revenge gets so much better. Your support means everything to this channel. Over the next 2 weeks, I played the perfect wife while secretly preparing for war. I transferred what money I could access into accounts Marcus didn't know about. I gathered every document, every piece of evidence. I made backup copies of backups. I met with Richard to ensure my will was changed. If something did go wrong, Marcus wouldn't get a penny. Everything would go to my cousin Elena, to charities, to anyone but him. I also did something else. Something that felt necessary for closure. I visited my father's grave for the first time since the wedding. Stood there in the fall sunshine, leaves crunching under my feet, and talked to him. I'm sorry, Dad. I was so stupid. You taught me to be smart, to be careful, and I ignored every instinct because I was lonely. But I'm fixing it. I promise you I'm fixing it. I could almost hear his voice. That's my girl. Now make the bastard pay. The morning of the planned hike arrived. Marcus was cheerful, excited, playing his role perfectly. He bought new hiking boots for me, packed a gourmet lunch, even brought a professional camera to capture our memories. What he didn't know, I was wearing a wire under my hiking jacket, sophisticated enough to transmit audio to Sarah's receiver a half-mile away. I had a GPS tracker in my shoe, and I'd taken a self-defense class every day for the past 2 weeks. If he tried to push me, I'd be ready. We drove to Prescott Trail in Marcus's car. He held my hand, talked about how beautiful the views would be, how this was about reconnecting after a stressful year. I smiled and agreed, all while knowing that on that trail, Sarah and Richard were already in position, hidden in the trees. And at the trailhead parking lot, in an unmarked car, 2 detectives were waiting for my signal, the code word I'd give over the wire when Marcus made his move. We started hiking. The morning was gorgeous. Blue sky, crisp air, leaves turning gold and red. Under other circumstances, it would have been perfect. Marcus was charming, attentive, pointing out birds and scenic views. We took photos together, his arm around me, both of us smiling for the camera. Evidence of the loving couple on their anniversary hike. An hour in, we reached the overlook. Just as Marcus had described, a stunning view of the valley below. Narrow trail, no guardrail. 100-foot drop to the rocks below. Marcus pulled out the gourmet lunch, spread a blanket on a flat rock. We sat, ate sandwiches, drank wine from a thermos. He was relaxed, confident. He thought he'd won. That's when his phone rang. Natasha. He rejected the call, but not before I saw her name. Business call. I asked innocently. Just Natasha. It can wait. He smiled at me, that charming smile I'd once loved. Nothing's more important than this moment with you. Then he stood up, stretched, walked to the edge of the cliff. Come look at this view, Harper. It's incredible. I stood, walked toward him. My heart was pounding, so hard I was sure he could hear it. This was it. The moment. I stepped beside him at the cliff edge. The wind whipped my hair. Far below, the rocks looked like jagged teeth. It's beautiful, I said. It really is. Marcus's voice had changed. Gone was the warmth. Now it was flat, cold. Harper, I need to tell you something. What's that? I never loved you. The words hung in the air between us. I turned to look at him and saw the mask had finally dropped. His face was hard and motionless. I know, I said quietly. His eyes widened. What? I said I know. I've known for weeks, Marcus. About you. About Natasha. About the money you've stolen. About your plan to push me off this cliff and make it look like an accident. I know everything. The color drained from his face. You're bluffing. Am I? Prescott Trail. Tuesday morning. No witnesses. One push, 100-foot drop. Classic hiking accident. Those are your words, by the way. I have them on recording. Marcus's expression shifted from shock to rage. You stupid bitch. You think you're so smart. If you knew, why did you come here? Because I needed you to try. I needed you to prove what you are in front of witnesses. I smiled. Or did you think we were alone? Marcus grabbed my arm, his grip bruising. You're lying. There's no one here. Detective Ramirez, Detective Chun. I said clearly, speaking to the wire. I think now would be a good time. Wildflowers. Wildflowers was the code word. The signal. Marcus's face twisted with understanding and panic. He looked around wildly, saw nothing. You're bluffing. There's no. That's when Sarah stepped out of the trees, 50 feet away. I wouldn't move if I were you, Marcus. Then Richard appeared from another direction. Let her go. And then the detectives emerged from the trail behind us, moving fast. Marcus Ashford, step away from your wife. Now. Marcus's grip on my arm tightened. For a second, I saw murder in his eyes. If he was going down, he'd take me with him. He started to pull me toward the edge. That's when everything I'd learned in self-defense class kicked in. I drove my elbow into his solar plexus hard. He gasped, grip loosening. I twisted out of his grasp, dropped low, and swept his legs. Marcus fell backwards, away from the cliff edge, onto the flat rock. Before he could recover, Detective Ramirez was on him, knee in his back, handcuffs clicking around his wrists. Marcus Ashford, the detective said formally, you're under arrest for attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, financial fraud, and theft. You have the right to remain silent. I stood there, breathing hard, watching my husband, my almost murderer, being read his rights. He was screaming, struggling, claiming it was all a misunderstanding. I didn't do anything. She's crazy. She attacked me. This is entrapment. Sir, we have you on recording discussing plans to kill your wife. We have evidence of financial fraud. We have everything. You have the right to an attorney. As they hauled Marcus to his feet, he looked at me with pure hatred. You can't do this. The prenup. The prenup you designed to guarantee you'd inherit my fortune if I died within 3 years? The one you thought I'd never have reviewed by a real lawyer? That prenup is void the moment you're charged with attempted murder. You get nothing, Marcus. Nothing. While Marcus was being processed at the police station, Sarah and I executed phase 2 of the plan. We timed it perfectly. The police search warrant for Natasha's condo was being executed at the exact same moment. I wanted to be there when they found my wedding dress. I needed to see her face. The detectives had initially resisted my request to accompany them, but Detective Martinez took pity on me. You can wait in the car. If she's not there, fine. If she is, well, you deserve to see justice. Natasha was home. I watched from the unmarked car as the police knocked, announced themselves. Through the windows of her luxury condo, the one Marcus had bought with my money, I could see her panicked face as she opened the door. What is this about? Her voice carried through the open door, imperious and demanding. Ma'am, we have a warrant to search the premises. We're investigating a theft report. A theft? This is ridiculous. I'm calling my lawyer. That's your right, ma'am. But we're coming in. I watched them enter. Watched Natasha follow, protesting loudly. The wait felt endless. Every minute dragged. Then, 20 minutes later, Detective Martinez emerged carrying an evidence bag. Inside it, pristine and perfectly preserved, was my Vera Wang wedding dress. I got out of the car. Martinez saw me and nodded. Mrs. Ashford, can you identify this item? I walked closer. Natasha was in the doorway now, her face sheet white as she saw me. Harper? What you bitch? You set me up. You planted that. Did I? I asked calmly. Detective, that dress has a GPS tracker sewn into the hem. A tracker I activated over a month ago. Care to check? They did. The tracker was there, time-stamped, showing the dress had been in Natasha's closet for over 2 weeks. But Marcus gave it to me, Natasha sputtered. He said it was a gift, that you didn't want it anymore. Did he now? Detective Chun had emerged now, carrying more evidence bags. And what about these financial documents we found in your office? The ones detailing shell companies and money transfers? Did Marcus give you those too? Natasha's face crumbled. She realized the trap I'd set. The dress was just the entry point. Once inside, they'd found everything. The documents I'd planted, yes, but also the real evidence of her complicity. Her laptop with emails to Marcus. Her phone with text messages planning my murder. The jewelry she'd stolen from my collection. Pieces she'd been too arrogant to hide. I want my lawyer, she whispered. Of course, Martinez said. Natasha Volkov, you're under arrest for receiving stolen property, conspiracy to commit murder, accessory to financial fraud and theft. You have the right to remain silent. As they handcuffed her, she looked at me with pure venom. Marcus will get us out of this. He always does. We've done this before and we'll. She stopped, realizing what she'd just admitted. I smiled. You've done this before. Detective Chen repeated. You'll want to elaborate on that at the station. They led her away. I stood there in the afternoon sunlight, watching the woman who'd planned to wear my wedding dress marry my husband after I was murdered. Watching her being loaded into a police car, hands cuffed behind her back. Justice, I thought, sometimes requires patience. The story broke that evening. Local real estate mogul arrested in murder for hire, plot against wealthy wife. My phone exploded with calls, friends, family, reporters. I ignored them all except one. My cousin Elena called, crying. Harper, oh my God. Are you okay? I can't believe. Marcus tried to kill you. He did. But I'm fine. I'm safe. And he's going to pay for everything. How did you know? How did you figure it out? Because Daddy taught me to pay attention. And because grief makes you vulnerable, but it doesn't make you stupid forever. That night, Richard came to my penthouse again. Marcus had been formally removed from the deed by court order. He brought champagne. To the smartest client I've ever had, he toasted. You could have died on that cliff. But you played it perfectly. Is the evidence enough? I asked. Really enough? Enough? Harper, the DA called it the most documented case of attempted spousal murder he's ever seen. We have recordings of them planning it. We have Marcus literally trying to push you off a cliff while under surveillance. We have the financial fraud. And now, thanks to Natasha's little slip-up, we have evidence they've run this scam before. The DA is looking into 3 previous widowers who lost fortunes to investment fraud. One of them was found dead of a supposed suicide. My blood ran cold. They've killed before. Probably. Definitely ruined lives. You might have saved future victims by exposing them. The next morning, I held a press conference. My lawyer advised against it, but I needed to speak. Needed to control my narrative. I stood in front of cameras, composed and calm. My name is Harper Sinclair Ashford, though I'll be returning to just Harper Sinclair. Yesterday, my husband attempted to murder me on a hiking trail. He did this to inherit my fortune. He planned this with his mistress, Natasha Volkov. I am here today because I suspected his plans and worked with law enforcement to gather evidence. I am safe. I am grateful. And I am here to tell anyone else who might be in a similar situation, trust your instincts. Document everything. And get help. The questions came fast. Were there warning signs? How long have you known? What about the stolen wedding dress? I answered them all honestly. The wedding dress was the symbol of everything they tried to take from me, my trust, my fortune, my life itself. Finding it in her closet was proof that they wanted not just my money, but to erase me entirely and take my place. That dress was worth $18,000. But what they tried to steal was priceless. The footage went viral. By that evening, I was trending on social media. Public opinion was overwhelmingly on my side. Marcus and Natasha became the faces of greed and evil. But the real exposure came 3 days later at their arraignment. The courtroom was packed with media, spectators, and people from my life. I sat in the front row, flanked by Richard and Elena. Marcus was brought in first, wearing an orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed. He looked haggard, broken. He caught sight of me, and his face twisted with rage. "This is your fault," he hissed as they let him past. "You bitch, you did this." "No," I said quietly. "You did this when you decided to marry me for money and murder me for more." The judge read the charges: attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, financial fraud, theft, identity fraud. The evidence included audio recordings, video surveillance, financial documents, GPS data, and witness testimony from Sarah, from Richard, from me. Marcus's lawyer tried to argue that the recordings were inadmissible, that I'd entrapped him, that he'd never actually pushed me off the cliff, so it wasn't attempted murder. The prosecutor destroyed those arguments systematically. "Your Honor, the defendant is recorded explicitly planning his wife's murder. He took her to a remote location under false pretenses. He confessed his lack of feeling for her, and he was physically grabbing her at the cliff's edge when law enforcement intervened. The only reason Mrs. Sinclair Ashford is alive is because she had the courage and intelligence to protect herself. This was a calculated, premeditated murder-for-hire plot that failed only because the intended victim was smarter than her would-be killer." The judge's face was granite. Bail denied. Defendant is remanded to custody pending trial. Marcus's face went pale. "Your Honor, please. Sit down, Mr. Ashford." Natasha's arraignment was next. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. Her expensive clothes had been replaced with a prison jumpsuit. The carefully styled hair was limp. The imperious attitude was gone. She cried as they read her charges. Real tears, not the calculated kind Marcus tried. "I didn't know he would really do it," she sobbed. "I thought he was just talking. I never believed." "Ms. Volkov," the judge interrupted, "we have you on recording discussing the murder plot in detail. We have evidence of you receiving stolen property. We have financial documents showing your complicity in fraud. Do you understand these charges?" "Yes, but—" "Bail is set at $500,000. Natasha didn't have $500,000. All her money had come from Marcus, and his accounts were frozen. She went back to jail, and I felt nothing but cold satisfaction. The trial was set for 6 months out. In the meantime, my life transformed. The media attention was intense, but mostly positive. I became a symbol, the woman who outsmarted her would-be killer. Other victims of financial fraud reached out, people who'd been conned by charming partners. I started to understand I'd been incredibly lucky. Smart, yes. Prepared, yes. But also lucky. One woman's message stayed with me. "My husband did the same thing yours tried. But I didn't figure it out until after he drained my accounts and disappeared. You're a hero for exposing them. I didn't feel like a hero. I felt like a survivor. Richard helped me untangle Marcus's financial mess. The shell companies, the hidden accounts. Slowly, I recovered most of my money. The beach house Marcus had bought was seized and sold, the proceeds returned to me. The jewelry Natasha had stolen was returned. And my wedding dress, after serving as evidence, was returned to me in an evidence bag. I burned it, took it to a field, doused it in gasoline, and set it on fire. Elena was with me, champagne in hand. To new beginnings, she said as we watched the Vera Wang burn. To new beginnings, I agreed. And to never being that naive again. The private investigator, Sarah, had uncovered even more. Marcus and Natasha had indeed run the scam before. 3 times. 3 wealthy women, all lonely, all grieving, all targeted and drained. One had ended up dead, ruled a suicide, but now being reinvestigated. They were professionals, Sarah told me. You weren't just lucky to catch them. You were smart. Most victims never realize until it's too late. Marcus's mother tried to contact me, left weeping voicemails about how her son couldn't have done this, how I must have misunderstood, how the stress of marriage had made me paranoid. I blocked her number. His friends, the ones who'd attended our wedding, slowly stopped reaching out. They didn't want to be associated with an attempted murderer. The business associates disappeared. The country club rescinded his membership. Marcus lost everything: freedom, reputation, money, future. Just like he'd planned for me. Natasha's family, Russian immigrants who'd worked hard to give her opportunities, disowned her publicly. Her mother gave an interview. I don't know this woman. My daughter died the day she chose greed over humanity. The day before the trial started, I visited my father's grave again. I did it, Dad. He's going to prison. Everything you built is safe. I'm safe. And I'm going to make sure this never happens to anyone else if I can help it. I felt peace for the first time in over a year. The trial lasted 3 weeks. I testified for 6 hours, walking the jury through everything: the courtship, the marriage, the red flags I'd ignored, the moment I realized I was in danger, the evidence I'd gathered. Marcus's lawyer tried to paint me as a vindictive wife, someone who'd overreacted to infidelity and created an elaborate revenge fantasy. The prosecutor destroyed that narrative with the recordings. The jury heard Marcus's voice. I wanted to look like a spontaneous miscarriage. Clean. That pregnancy is an obstacle. They heard him say, 1 push, 100-foot drop. Classic hiking accident. They heard Natasha say, I want to wear a dead woman's wedding dress. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. When they came back, the forewoman read the verdict, her voice steady and clear. On the charge of attempted murder, guilty. On the charge of conspiracy to commit murder, guilty. On the charge of financial fraud, guilty. On the charge of identity theft, guilty. Marcus's face was blank, emotionless. It was the same face he'd worn when telling me he never loved me. The mask was permanent now. Natasha, tried separately but simultaneously, fared no better. Guilty on all counts. She wept as the verdict was read, but the jury had no mercy. They'd heard her laugh about my death on the recordings. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. Marcus Ashford, 35 years to life. No possibility of parole for 25 years. Natasha Volkov, 20 years to life. No possibility of parole for 15 years. The judge's words echoed in the courtroom. Mr. Ashford, you manipulated a grieving woman, married her under false pretenses, stole her fortune, and attempted to murder her. Your actions were calculated, cruel, and utterly devoid of humanity. Ms. Volkov, you were a willing and enthusiastic participant in this scheme. You both represent the worst of humanity, predators who target the vulnerable. Society must be protected from you. I sat in the courtroom, Elena's hand in mine, and felt empty. Not triumphant. Not joyful. Just empty. Justice had been served, but what had I really won? My money back, yes. My safety, yes. But I'd lost a year of my life to a man who'd never existed. The Marcus I'd loved had been a fiction, a character he'd played. After the sentencing, I walked out of the courthouse. Reporters swarmed, asking for statements. I'd prepared one. Today, justice was served. But my victory is bittersweet. I wish I'd never met Marcus Ashford. I wish I'd listened to my instincts sooner. I wish I hadn't been so desperate for love that I ignored the warning signs. My hope now is that by sharing my story, I can help others recognize the signs of financial abuse and manipulation before it's too late. That's my mission going forward. 6 months after the trial ended, I stood in the living room of a new penthouse. Not my father's penthouse. I'd sold that. Too many memories. This was mine. Smaller, more modern, decorated with my taste, not Marcus's influence. Elena had helped me pack up the old place. New beginning, she said firmly. Clean slate. I kept very little. Photos of my parents. My father's watch. My mother's jewelry. Everything else. The furniture Marcus had chosen, the art he'd selected, the kitchen gadgets he bought, went to charity or trash. The new place felt like me. Light, airy, peaceful. I'd started a foundation, the Sinclair Foundation for Financial Abuse Awareness. We educated people about the warning signs of financial manipulation, provided legal resources for victims, and funded investigations into suspected con artists. Sarah Kim came on as the director of investigations. You're paying me to catch more Marcus Ashfords? Dream job, she'd said. Richard Chun joined the board. So did Elena. We were small but determined. Our first big case came 3 months after the foundation launched. A woman contacted us, terrified. Her new husband had started making the same moves Marcus had, pushing for joint accounts, suggesting risky investments, isolating her from family. We investigated, found evidence he was running the same scam. Got her out safely, got him arrested. She got her money back and her freedom. You saved my life, she told me at a celebration dinner. No, I corrected gently. You saved your life by trusting your instincts and asking for help. I just provided resources. Slowly, painfully, I was healing. Not from physical wounds, but from the wound of betrayed trust. From the humiliation of realizing how completely I'd been deceived. Therapy helped. My therapist, Dr. Reeves, specialized in trauma from intimate partner violence. What Marcus did was violence, she told me early on. Not physical in your case, but psychological, emotional, financial. It's okay to grieve the person you thought he was, even though that person never existed. I grieved. I raged. I cried. And slowly I emerged. 1 year after the trial, I went on my first date. His name was James, a professor of ethics at the university. Elena had set us up, vetted him thoroughly, practically run a background check. I'm not ready, I'd protested. You'll never feel ready, Elena had replied. Just have coffee. See what happens. James was kind, genuine, and when I told him my story over that coffee, he didn't run. That's terrifying, he'd said. And impressive. Your strength, I mean. Not what happened. I don't feel strong. That's because you are strong. Strong people never feel it. They just do what needs to be done. We dated slowly. Very slowly. I made him sign a prenup before we even discussed living together, which he did with a laugh. Harper, I'm a philosophy professor. I own 17 sweaters and a used Prius. What exactly would I be after? But he understood that trust, for me, had to be rebuilt molecule by molecule. 2 years after Marcus's conviction, I received a letter from him. The prison mail screening let it through, though they'd reviewed it first. I almost threw it away unopened. But curiosity won. The letter was 4 pages, handwritten, and utterly delusional. Harper, I've had a lot of time to think in here. About us. About what went wrong. I know you think I never loved you, but that's not true. In my own way, I cared about you. I made mistakes. Bad choices. Got caught up in something bigger than me. Natasha was the real mastermind. She manipulated me too. I was just trying to provide a good life for us. The money, the investments, that was all for our future. I never actually wanted to hurt you. The hiking thing was just, I was venting. I wouldn't have gone through with it. I hope someday you can forgive me. I hope someday you'll visit me here so we can talk. Really talk. Maybe you'll understand that I'm not the monster you think I am. I still have the watch you gave me for our anniversary. I look at it every day and remember the good times. We had good times, didn't we? Before everything went wrong. I'm not asking you to help me get out early, but maybe you could write back. Tell me you're okay. Tell me you don't hate me. I think about you all the time. Love, Marcus. I read it twice. Then I laughed. Actually laughed out loud in my living room. The narcissism. The delusion. The complete inability to accept responsibility. He still thought he could manipulate me with nostalgia and rewritten history. I took out my favorite pen, the one my father had given me when I graduated college, and wrote my response on his letter directly. Marcus. No. That's all you get from me. No forgiveness. No understanding. No visits. No letters. You didn't love me. You never loved me. You're not capable of love, only of performance. You tried to kill me for money. That's not a mistake. That's not a bad choice. That's attempted murder. Natasha wasn't the mastermind. You both were partners in evil. You've done this before, to other women. I know because Sarah found them. 3 victims before me. 1 is dead, Marcus. Dead. And it's being investigated as murder now, with you as the prime suspect. I hope you think about what you lost every single day for the next 25 years. You traded a good life for a prison cell. You gambled your freedom for money you'll never spend. You destroyed your reputation, your future, and probably your soul in the process. Our marriage was a lie. Those good times, you remember? You were acting. I was living. There's a difference. I'm thriving now. I have a foundation that helps people like me, people who trusted the wrong person. I'm in a healthy relationship with someone who doesn't view me as a bank account. I wake up every morning grateful to be alive, something you almost took from me. Do I hate you? No. Hate requires caring, and I don't care about you at all. You're nothing to me. Just a lesson I learned about the darkness some people carry inside them. Thank you for showing me what I'm capable of. Thank you for underestimating me. Thank you for being so arrogant that you got caught. Thank you for failing. I hope you live a very, very long life in prison, Marcus. I hope you have decades to think about the moment on that cliff when you realized I'd outsmarted you. That moment when you understood that the stupid, naive, trusting woman you'd married was actually smart enough to destroy you. I won. You lost. And that's how our story ends. Never contact me again. Harper Sinclair, note. I took back my maiden name. Your name isn't worth keeping. I mailed the letter back to the prison, certified mail, return receipt requested. I wanted him to know I'd read it and responded. I wanted those to be the last words he ever received from me. Marcus tried to respond again. 2 more letters came over the next few months. I returned them unopened, marked refused. Eventually, they stopped. 5 years after Marcus's conviction, I stood at a podium at a conference on financial abuse. The ballroom was packed with social workers, lawyers, law enforcement, and survivors. I told my story again, as I'd told it hundreds of times now. But I also told them about the 53 people the Sinclair Foundation had helped escape similar situations. 53 lives saved. 53 futures protected. I'm not special, I concluded. I got lucky. I figured it out in time. But not everyone does. That's why this work matters. That's why we have to believe survivors, help them gather evidence, give them resources. Because the Marcus Ashfords of the world are still out there, still targeting vulnerable people, still destroying lives. The applause was thunderous. Afterward, a young woman approached me, tears streaming down her face. My fiancé is doing what your husband did, she whispered. The joint accounts, the pressure to change my will, the isolation. I wasn't sure if I was paranoid until I heard your story. Can you help me? Yes, I said, taking her hand. Absolutely yes. You're going to be okay. I promise. That night, I returned to my penthouse. James was waiting, having cooked dinner. Real pasta, not takeout. Homemade sauce that filled the apartment with the scent of garlic and basil. How was the conference? He asked, pouring wine. Good. Hard. Important. He kissed my forehead. You're impressive, you know that. I'm a survivor, I corrected. Same thing. After dinner, we sat on the balcony, watching the city lights. My city. The one I'd almost lost everything in. The one where I'd almost died. The one where I'd learned to fight back. Do you ever regret it? James asked. Marrying him? Going through all that? I thought about it. Really thought about it. I regret the pain. I regret the time I wasted. I regret being naive. But do I regret what it taught me? What it made me capable of? No. I became someone stronger. Someone smarter. Someone who helps others now. You were always strong, James said quietly. You just didn't know it yet. Maybe he was right. Maybe strength isn't something you gain. It's something you discover was there all along, waiting for the moment you needed it. 10 years after Marcus's conviction, I got a letter from the parole board. Marcus was eligible for a parole hearing. They wanted to know if I wished to make a statement. I did. I appeared via video, my face on a screen in the hearing room where Marcus sat in his prison uniform, older now, grayer, diminished. Mr. Ashford has expressed remorse, the parole board chairman said. He's completed rehabilitation programs. He's been a model prisoner. Do you have any comments on his potential parole? I looked directly at the camera, knowing Marcus was watching. Model prisoner isn't the same as reformed person. Marcus Ashford is a sociopath who spent 14 months playing the role of loving husband while planning my murder. He's had 10 years to perfect his next performance, the remorseful convict. Don't believe it. He's not sorry he did it. He's sorry he got caught. I pulled out a folder. These are letters from 3 other women he conned in similar schemes before me. Women who lost their money, their trust, their futures. One is dead, and the investigation into her death remains open. If you let him out early, he will do this again. People like Marcus don't change. They just get better at hiding what they are. Marcus tried to speak. The chairman silenced him. Thank you, Miss Sinclair. Your statement will be considered. Parole was denied. Marcus would serve the full 25 years before his next hearing. I felt no triumph in that, just grim satisfaction. Justice was slow, but it was thorough. 15 years after the trial that changed my life, I sat in my living room with my daughter. Her name was Grace, she was 8 years old, and she had James's kind eyes and my determination. Mommy, Miss Peterson says you help people who are in trouble. I do, sweetie. People who trusted the wrong person and need help getting safe. Like superheroes. I laughed. Not quite. More like, I help them become their own superheroes. Can I help when I'm bigger? I pulled her close. If you want to. But I hope you never need to understand why this work matters. I hope you grow up trusting your instincts, never doubting yourself, never letting anyone make you feel small. Did someone make you feel small? Once. A long time ago. But I got bigger. She thought about that, then nodded seriously. Good. Because you're the biggest person I know. 20 years after Marcus tried to kill me on that hiking trail, I received news that he died in prison. Pancreatic cancer, quick and brutal. He was 62. I felt nothing. No sadness, no relief, no closure. Just a distant acknowledgement that a chapter that had closed long ago was finally over. Natasha had been released after serving 18 years. I'd heard through Sarah's investigator network that she'd moved to Europe, changed her name, was working as a home health aide. A small life, anonymous, far from the luxury and glamour she craved. I hoped she thought about me sometimes. Wondered if I'd ever forgive her. I wouldn't. But I also didn't waste energy hating her. She was just another cautionary tale in a world full of them. The foundation I started had grown beyond my wildest expectations. We had offices in 12 states, had helped over 2,000 people escape financial abuse, and had lobbied successfully for stronger laws protecting victims. My daughter, Grace, now 15, had started volunteering at the Foundation's youth programs, teaching kids about healthy relationships and financial literacy. I want to be like you when I grow up, she told me one day. No, I corrected gently. I want you to be better than me. Smarter, less trusting of the wrong people, more confident in yourself. But you're amazing. I'm a survivor who got lucky. You can be someone who never needs to survive in the first place. On what would have been my 20th wedding anniversary to Marcus, I instead celebrated my 10th anniversary to James. Small ceremony, close friends, no pretense. Elena gave a toast. To Harper, who proved that the best revenge is not just living well, it's living authentically, helping others, and never letting anyone dim your light again. I raised my glass, looked around at the people I loved who genuinely loved me back, and felt something I hadn't felt in 2 decades. Complete peace. Marcus had tried to take everything from me. My money, my future, my life. But he'd failed. I'd taken everything from him instead. His freedom, his reputation, his future. And I'd built something beautiful from the ashes of his betrayal. Some stories don't end with revenge. They end with redemption. This was mine. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction, it's transformation. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't in defeating your enemy, it's in becoming someone they could never diminish, someone who helps others rise, someone who turns pain into purpose. Marcus Ashford tried to murder Harper Sinclair Ashford for money. Instead, he gave her a mission, a strength she didn't know she possessed, and a story that would save hundreds of lives. The wedding dress he wanted for his mistress became the symbol of his downfall. The cliff he chose for her murder became the place he destroyed himself. And the naive, trusting woman he thought he'd married became the prosecutor, judge, and executioner of his entire life's plans. That's not just revenge. That's resurrection. Thank you for staying until the end. If this story gave you the justice you needed to see, check out the other videos on screen. They're just as satisfying. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? See you in the next story.